In this video, we're going to look at the term exclamatory sentence. Here is a definition. An exclamatory sentence conveys a strong emotion and ends with an exclamation mark. Let's do an example. So this guy might say, "I'm free." Obviously that expresses the emotion of joy. She might say, "I treasure you," expressing the emotion of love. "She actually won," expressing surprise. Or, "You're late again," expressing the emotion of anger. Notice that all of these sentences end with exclamation marks. That is a good telltale sign for an exclamatory sentence. So these are all exclamatory sentences, but actually that is just one type of sentence. There are 4 types of sentence, and now's a good time to look at them so we can compare them with exclamatory sentences. An interrogative sentence asks a question. For example, who likes garlic? The next type is an imperative sentence, which gives a command. For example, peel 2 oranges. You can also have a declarative sentence, which makes a statement. These tomatoes are soft. And then you have the one that we're looking at in this video, the exclamatory sentence, and that expresses emotion. These tomatoes are soft. Now, you will have noticed that the last 2 are the same, apart from the end punctuation. And that was deliberate, and we'll talk about that in a second. For now, just have a look at how each of these sentence types ends. So, an interrogative sentence ends with a question mark. An imperative sentence ends with a full stop, or a period if you're American. A declarative sentence ends with a full stop, and an exclamatory sentence ends with an exclamation mark. It's worth just noting that not every sentence that ends in an exclamation mark is an exclamatory sentence. Imperative sentences can also end in exclamation marks, and that just makes the command more forceful. So bear that in mind. Okay, the type of sentence that we care about is this one, exclamatory sentence. So let's get back to our lesson. Let's clear that. Let's put our example back up about tomatoes. These tomatoes are soft. These tomatoes are soft with an exclamation mark. Now the top one is a declarative sentence. It just states a fact. The bottom one is an exclamatory sentence. It expresses the emotion of, well, what does this sentence express the emotion of? It's really not that clear. And that's because we haven't used good words to express the emotion. And that's what I'd like to talk about next. So let's clear that. And let's start by making this top one exclamatory. And we can do that by changing the full stop to an exclamation mark. But as we've said, this is not a good exclamatory sentence. We can't be sure what emotion it's trying to convey. Now, of course, context will help with conveying that emotion. But here are some other techniques. These tomatoes are so soft. Putting the word so in front of an adjective is a good technique for creating a better exclamatory sentence. These are such soft tomatoes. Using the word such is another technique for creating a better exclamatory sentence. But the problem with this sentence is the word soft. It's just not descriptive enough. So we need to think a little bit harder and come up with some better words to convey what it is we're trying to say. Maybe rancid, or disgusting, or perfect, or delightful, or soggy. So the emotion in an exclamatory sentence is not just conveyed by the exclamation mark, it's also conveyed by the word choice. And when you've found a good word, you can emphasize it with words like so and such. Let's keep going. What mushy tomatoes these are! Starting your exclamatory sentence with what is another technique to build an exclamatory sentence. And here is another one. How mushy these tomatoes are. We're going to talk a little bit more about this later. Before we do, there's another point we have to cover. Let's go back to our 4 sentence types. This time they're all going to be about garlic. So, is garlic smelly? That is an interrogative sentence. It's a question. Prepare the garlic. That's an imperative one. It gives a command. Garlic is smelly. That's a declarative sentence. It makes a statement. Garlic is disgusting. That is an exclamatory sentence, and we've used a slightly better word than just smelly. Now, look at the order of the verb and the subject in each of these. In a question, you have verb then subject. That is a good telltale sign for a question. In a command, you don't have a subject. It's just the verb. The subject is implied. Actually, it's the word you implied, but it doesn't feature in the sentence. It's just the verb. Now, look at the statement. It goes subject, then verb. And look at the exclamatory sentence. It goes subject, then verb. I've shown you this to make the point that an exclamatory sentence has the same format as a declarative sentence, only it will end in an exclamation mark and it will feature more emotive words. Okay, let's get back to our exclamatory sentence. Let's clear that and let's look at these exclamatory sentences to determine the order of the subject and the verb. So, in this first one, we have subject and verb. That's what we'd expect. In this one, we have subject and verb, as expected. In this one, we have subject and verb, as expected. And in this one, we also have subject and verb. And in the bottom one, we have subject and verb. So the format of an exclamatory sentence is subject and verb, like it is in a declarative sentence. But look at the bottom two. They seem back to front. And that's because they are back to front. And it's part of a technique to create emphasis. This technique is called anastrophe. And you've probably heard it before. Let's very quickly talk about anastrophe. Anastrophe is the deliberate changing of normal word order for emphasis. So you think you haven't heard of this? What about this guy? Powerful you have become. This is an example of anastrophe. It's the deliberate changing of normal word order for emphasis. So let's go back and look at our bottom two. You can think of this as anastrophe, a deliberate changing of the normal word order for emphasis. Okay, let's clear that. So we have covered some techniques for creating an exclamatory sentence. But there's another one, and it's a big one. It is common to see an exclamatory sentence preceded with a type of word called an interjection. And this is a great way of making it clear what the emotion is you're trying to portray. Wow, these tomatoes are soft. Yes, these tomatoes are so soft. Yay, these are such soft tomatoes. Oh, what mushy tomatoes these are. Yuck, how mushy these tomatoes are. These words at the front of the sentence, now highlighted in yellow, are called interjections. And an interjection can be used to support an exclamatory sentence. There are 3 ways to punctuate an interjection. You can use an exclamation mark, like the top one. That makes the interjection powerful. You can use a full stop, like the second one. And that makes the interjection milder and creates a slight pause. Or you can use a comma, like the fourth one. And this is also a mild interjection and creates less of a pause. The 2 most common ways are exclamation marks and commas. Now, we have a whole lesson on interjections, but for now, here is a list of some common ones in English, categorized by the emotion. So just to reiterate, an exclamation mark is a strong interjection, a full stop and commas are for milder interjections. Okay, let's get back to our lesson. Before we wrap up, I just want to make 2 quick points. Do not overuse exclamatory sentences. Here is some advice lifted from our book. An exclamatory sentence delivers a jolt of emotion. If you add emotion to everything, you add emotion to nothing. In other words, use exclamatory sentences sparingly to maintain their impact. And the second point is don't use more than one exclamation mark. And this idea is well captured in a quotation by the author Terry Pratchett. 5 exclamation marks, the sure sign of an insane mind. But it's similar to the top point. If you find yourself using more than one exclamation mark, then you've not been using your exclamation mark sparingly enough. One should suffice if your writing is good enough. That is everything I want to say about exclamatory sentences. Let's whip through a summary. An exclamatory sentence conveys a strong emotion and ends with an exclamation mark. Try to use more emotive words. For example, instead of soft, you might use rancid or soggy or something else that makes it clear what the emotion is you're trying to convey. Don't forget, you can use the words so and such to improve your exclamatory sentence. Or you can use a sentence that starts with what and employs some anastrophe, or a sentence that starts with how and employs anastrophe. That's how Yoda would speak. In an exclamatory sentence, the order will be subject-verb, as it is in all of these examples. And don't forget, to bring your exclamatory sentence to life, you can precede it with an interjection. That is everything I want to say about exclamatory sentences. Thanks for watching.